take me through the Padres jump out to this incredible start. And, when I saw you in spring training, I think the vibe was kind of like, well, this team's window might be kind of shut or behind them. And nobody really had outside big expectations. What has kind of propelled them through this first month? I know they got swept by Tampa Bay, come down to earth here a little bit later in April, but what has propelled them into such a good month and being able to say, yeah, maybe they can compete with the Dodgers again this year?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, 162 is a long time to compete with the Dodgers, but they are a dangerous team. And I don't know that why anyone would have thought that 2025 was the closing of their window. Now, the start to the season, I mean, Jackson Merrill was just so significant in, his first 10 games and then had to obviously go on the injured list. And that had a lot to do with the slide. Jake Cronenworth goes on the injured list right after him. And then a little bit after that, they lost Luis Ariz for a week, and that's three of their six core players. And but Fernando Tatis Jr. start to the season, the pitching staff, in particular the bullpen, which you thought was a strength. I think what happened is they had the kind of stretch, whether you go to the 10 games, the 12 games, the 19 games when they were 15-4 before they went to Houston the middle of last month. They had the kind of stretch that good teams have. They had it at the beginning of the year. Now, that's not to say they can't have it again, but it just came at the beginning of the year. Like when a player starts out hitting 450 for the first month, and guys do that. Good players do that in the middle of the season. The Padres did it at the beginning of the season. Everything was going right. They're playing a certain kind of way, which I do think bodes well for them to be a playoff team, to not go in sustained slumps. They have good players. Then most of them are playing well.
Kevin, you said that the Dodgers and Padres have to compete for 162. I disagree. All the Padres have to do is get into the playoffs and beat them 4 out of 7 or 3 out of 5. Like the
Exactly.
162 doesn't matter. Just get in
Right.
and take your shot because they had them last year. I mean, if you look at it, you ask
Yep.
the Dodgers, you ask the Padres, they had them. They were the last team to beat them. Them and the Diamondbacks. Remember in 22, they beat them in that great series with the Goose and all that stuff. And then the Diamondbacks did it in 23. But the Padres are not afraid of the Dodgers. I think that's what we overlook. And if they get into a series, forget the 162. Just get in and play them in a 5-game series or a 7-game series, and they'll take their chances against them. They love playing. And the fans, oh, baby, the fans in San Diego, beat LA-Chan and Petco is as good as it gets.
I absolutely agree with you. I was responding to the Dodgers competing for the division title over 162. Look, the Padres will not concede that, but they also feel the way that you do. And it's the way that I feel as someone who has watched them face the Dodgers and watched the Dodgers in the postseason and knows what the Padres bring in terms of their top three starters, in terms of their dangerous players, in terms of how Fernando Tatis Jr. Rises to the occasion against the Dodgers year after year. That Darvish, if he's back and healthy at that point, and how he pitches against the Dodgers, absolutely, that is what it has become about. I mean, I happen to like it. I happen to like how you go into postseason baseball, and then it just changes so much. I just think over 162, the Dodgers can kind of, it's going to be tough. But look, like I said, the Padres are a dangerous team, a very, very dangerous team.
Before we get into the nooks and crannies of this team, have they made enough adjustments to beat the Dodgers in the playoffs? Because in the offseason, you go and you say, all right, I want to make this adjustment. I want to make this adjustment. All we heard about the Padres was we might have to get rid of Dylan Cease and shed payroll with getting Luis Ariz off and it was like, wait, what? You were so close. The Dodgers even said you were so close. So have they made the adjustments with the personnel on the field?
I would have said emphatically so before they just went 30 innings without scoring, but that was 30 innings without scoring, without Luis Ariz, without Jackson Merrill, without Jake Cronenworth. And so I do believe that this team, the way that they play, the way that Mike Schilt has them playing, and it is pretty remarkable how they have responded to that over a season plus. Every player and the buy-in, I do absolutely believe that a healthy Padres team is still that team that, The 24 innings at the end last year, that pretty much explains it, right? Dylan Cease didn't have a great start in game 5. They chose to go with Dylan twice on short rest. I absolutely believe it. To me, like the offseason, and this isn't good for business, but it's like, folks, like year after year, the Padres have won the offseason and it hasn't worked out, like spectacularly hasn't worked out. The Padres have been kind of like, as you said, that was the narrative, and it was not a false narrative for this offseason. And now look, they're, arguably one of the top 5 teams in baseball. They're certainly looking like a playoff team. It's like the offseason, like, meh. And yes, to answer your question, it's not like they did nothing. They have made some strategic moves. Nick Pivetta, for goodness sake, is like a revelation.
Still, though, they haven't done that much considering AJ Preller is their GM, and it seems like he just loves making move after move and surprise after surprise. With the ownership situation, Kevin, is that a little more, has it given them a little bit more stability, kind of knowing who's in charge? And if they are going to continue to compete like this, do you feel like AJ Preller will be allowed to make adjustments at the deadline and maybe take on some more payroll? Even though, like you said, they've done so much over the last couple of years, it would be a shame to all of a sudden now tighten the purse strings or to say, no, we're not going to go all in.
It is my understanding that they have what some in the organization called dry powder for the trade deadline, like they had last year. I mean, those were some incredible cost-effective moves that made them at the end of the season probably the best bullpen. Now, I say that, and then they ran up against the perfect bullpen game against the Dodgers, so that was a pretty good bullpen in the postseason. But the Padres had a really good bullpen. As a matter of fact, one of them's with the Dodgers now, and so I do believe they have that dry powder. They need to stay healthy. Like their bullpen is pretty darn good. They have some ascending guys in there, and Estrada, Morahone, Jason Adams, one of the best. Robert Suarez is pitching very well, has done some things to add to his repertoire and become very, very efficient as a closer. They have to stay healthy.
I don't know what dry powder is, but Kratz has an idea.
Either do I, but the gist is, I think this goes back to, guns and that sort of thing and all that. They have the ability to spend.
Kratz, let's talk about the #1 recommended dermatologist hair growth supplement brand. And it's a brand that you are just starting your journey with.
I'm using. What about 1.5, 2 months into my journey? It's a 6-month journey. See what I can get. See a little thicker, fuller everywhere, filling it out. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
I'm very excited to see the Nutrafol results with Kratz. And don't show us your hat yet, okay? You got to stay tuned through this journey. And if you want to join Kratz for this journey, you can start your hair growth journey with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering FT listeners $10 off your first month's subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code FOUL. Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com. Promo code FOUL. That's Nutrafol.com. Promo code FOUL.
As somebody that Britt covered for years, Manny Machado, does he not get enough credit? Because we've heard bad things. There's been a lot of stories about Manny, and you've seen it and this and that. But he's the one constant on this team since he got there. He plays every day. He plays through injuries. He plays third base. He hits third in the lineup. He gets big hits for him. Does he not get enough credit? And maybe Britt can also answer this because she covered him when he was a younger player. But does he not get enough credit? And do we still look back and think, man, he's still the guy that threw the bat at the pitcher and him and Donaldson got into it? Has he matured to a point where we need to give him more credit as a leader?
I'm so glad that you asked. I don't want to say astounded. I like to think that I have great faith in human beings, but if I am astounded, it is a 100% compliment to Manny Machado. And the growth as a person, the growth as a leader, the growth as a teammate, the maturity, the buy-in. I give a lot of credit to the guys around him, to Mike Schilt as well. But Manny Machado is the guy who had to say, like, I'm gonna actually be this leader, and I'm gonna actually be this guy. And that's not to say that he didn't have some of those qualities, that he didn't do some things, but like we all evolve, and Manny will be the first person to tell you that in not so many words. That that we all grow, right? Thankfully. But I could not be, and I talk about it all the time. I talk about it with teammates. I've talked about it with Manny. I've said it elsewhere. Like what Manny Machado has done in the last 2 seasons to become the Manny Machado he is now, the member of this team. So leader and teammate. It is one, I've been doing this for 30 years. It's one of the most impressive things I've seen. I'm not overstating it, I promise you.
I would agree with that, Kevin. I also think too, what people don't realize, and I had somebody in the organization say, there's no one as misunderstood in baseball as Manny Machado, which I find is a perfect way to kind of encapsulate it. What I kind of point to a lot is that Manny posts, and I think that's a dying thing in baseball in the age of workloads and load management and all this other stuff. Manny Machado plays. He plays hurt. He plays banged up. He prides himself on not going on the injured list. And I think even when he wasn't this great leader, even when he was evolving and figuring out who he was, that speaks volumes, right? And that goes back to the Adam Jones, Nick Markakis days in Baltimore. But, I think that guys now watch guys like that and they're like, this guy I saw in the training room for 2 hours, he could barely walk and he's still playing. I'm going to play. I think that speaks volumes as well. And I hope we get back to a place in baseball where we are still valuing games played as well.
Absolutely, Brett. And one of the reasons that I've always I came on because of Brett. I'm pretty tired. I took a red eye, but I was like, I got to get on there with the Manny Whisperer. I got to. So always like to talk to Brett. Like to talk Manny with Brett. It would be simplifying it too much for me to say, like, even when I was one of the guys who wrote stories about, and one story in particular about where Manny needed some growth, I was consistently writing about him posting and about teammates looking up to that. What he has added to that is also this willingness to then, whereas before, let's say Manny's whole thing was I post and I have a 900 OPS and that's good enough. That's my leadership. Now Manny is involved in infield before games because that's important to Mike Schilt. Now they work together and it's 5 minutes to keep Mr. No Small Talk, keep me engaged, to keep Manny buying into it. And so that's like a work together thing that I give Mike Schilt credit for, but Manny credit for like, hey, this is important to my manager, to my coaches, to the young guys to see that I'm also out here doing this. Unless, of course, I need to be in there because I could barely move my hip or my elbow and I'm still going to play, but I got to get my 2.5, 3 hours, 4 hours of treatment. Like Manny has always done that. What he's evolved to is becoming more of like a guy who's involved and everything that the team wants him to be. And I guess maybe the reason that I'm so impressed by that is I was kind of like, hey, this guy plays every day. Like, leave him alone, dude. Like, I covered a lot of guys like that back in the 90s, early 2000s, where it's like, that's all they do is play. They don't give a hoot about anything else. But Manny has now become like this full service, like superstar. And that's the part that has impressed me.
Kevin, let's talk about you. Not the present you, but you, Darvish.
My favorite.
And when
oh, dang it.
And when he's coming back, not just him being able to be active and being on this roster, building his pitch count up, but the fact that they're going with a 4-man rotation right now, how much is this going to affect them and how are they going to ease him in, should I say?
Yeah, this 4-man rotation isn't going to last for like a week because they got 6 games in a row next week, and the way that the off days line up, it's just not going to work out. So they'll go through it right now and then get back. And then the way it's lining up, maybe the end of May, 5 innings, 5 innings a couple times, and then beginning of June, maybe be able to even face the Dodgers. It was always going to be a plan. It was going to be 39 in August. Has had obviously a little bit of nagging stuff, the verge of serious stuff for almost every year he's been with the Padres. So it was always going to be a plan. We're going to find a way to rest Yu Darvish. So that guy we saw in September had like a 2 ERA, and then that, pitched well enough to win one game and should have, well enough to win another game in the playoffs. Like that Darvish, like that's what we need in September and hopefully October. So we're going to be careful with you. That's what they're doing now with him. Look, if Pivetta is really this guy who's not giving up homers, who is getting swing and miss in the zone, whose fastball looks like it's going 112 miles an hour when it's going 94, like if that's Pivetta for the whole year, Dylan Cease finds himself. We haven't talked about that. He's struggling. Michael King is who he's been. If Darvish can be added to that, that's a heck of a rotation.
Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.